One. And we are recording with the one and only Miss Mitzi Perdue for episode 851 on Monday, June 27th, 2022 at 4:09 p.m. Eastern Time. Miss Perdue, how are you doing?
Well, basically, really, really good. I had COVID maybe 5 days ago, and using the protocols that I got from you of hydroxychloroquine and zinc and vitamin D, it lasted about 1 day, and I feel great.
And that's what I got banned from YouTube for.
The icky, awful thing is we can never know how it would have been, how my COVID would have been if I hadn't taken the protocol. Yeah, it's just icky that we don't know. But we do know that I'm 81 and that at 81, it's supposed to hit you pretty hard. And it didn't. And
Yeah.
I'm going to give credit to pretty much the hour that I tested positive. I got the protocol, and within a day, I was doing pretty well. And that, by the way, went from a fever of 101.7 and horrible cough, too tired to get out of bed. The next day I'm better. So something good was going on.
And it also kind of starts to my mom had COVID like a month ago. My mom's 63. My aunts and uncles have had it, and they've all been on the same protocol from Dr. McCullough, Dr. Fareed, using all the same things: ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, vitamin D, zinc, turmeric, and quercetin, and
All of the
NAC.
above, all of the
Yeah,
above.
yeah. No, I take them all, and they've all, to a T, not only lived but gotten better in 48 hours. I mean, like back to yard work, and it moves from this like theoretical thing where we talk about the evils of censorship and the evils of collusion between big pharma, big tech, and the US government. And then you start to see it in very real human terms, because I don't think twice about how my mom had COVID. Oh yeah, it's just a thing. I don't even remember when it was. Was it 1 month ago? Was it 2 months? 2 months ago? There's over 1 million people who now it's, yeah, no, they died. They couldn't, gone, just gone.
But the thing is, I can't know what would have happened to
Oh,
me
sure.
without.
No, sure. We don't know. Maybe you would have gotten better in a day anyway. I mean, obviously, yeah.
On the other hand, from feeling, I mean, when I took the test and there was that really bright purple line that says you've got it, that day I genuinely felt pretty bad. I mean, I didn't want to get out of bed. My chest was tight, pain. Yeah, just the whole works. Oh, and complete loss of smell. But by the next day, I was out of bed, showered, getting dressed. Not still tired, but I wasn't sick the way I was sick the day before.
Mm-hmm.
So something changed just remarkably.
Well, again, is sure, if like you said, I mean, we don't know what would have happened if you didn't. Maybe you would have been fine. But when I look at it happening to you, my mom, aunts and uncles, it starts to get, you have to start looking at what's the probability of, what if they all have just been fine, or is there a correlation between all of them in their 60s and 70s getting
80.
better, 80s getting better in 2 days? And that, to me, is like the very real, a lot of people died, and not because you're spreading misinformation, but the opposite. It is not an exaggerated or hyperbolic statement to say this censorship of early treatment protocols resulted in hundreds of thousands of deaths. That's not a light statement, and yet it's true.
Okay, again, I can't know, but I can tell you the subjective feeling from feeling really sick, the kind of sick where under normal circumstances, you feel that sick, you're probably in bed for several days.
Uh-huh.
And to feel, other than tired, feel symptom free it felt like it was 24 hours. In 24 hours, no fever, still a little bit of cough, but just I wasn't sick while I was the day before. So I guess Oh, I'm afraid this is boring to everybody.
No, keep going.
Okay, but my subjective feeling is that I was getting better really unexpectedly fast. That's how it felt.
Yeah. I mean,
And I was afraid that, maybe it's my imagination, maybe I'm not getting better. Maybe later on in the day I'll feel lousy again. But I didn't.
Yeah.
No, it was a good experience.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the medication was a good experience.
Yeah. But even then, it is evil that in 2022, in the United States, people are getting COVID and reaching out to me and saying, can you send me the links that those doctors gave you? That should not be the case. That should not be the case, that people's first reaction, or let's say, because it's happened more times than I actually even don't know what all is legally actionable. So I won't say who and how many times I've done this. But the case
Okay,
that
I didn't get it from you, Tommy. I got it from Dr. Fareed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, I know that. No one's getting anything from me. No, God, no, I'm not writing prescriptions. But the fact that people's immediate response is, I know there's one way I can get it. I can email this guy that has a podcast that he does out of his bedroom. That's dystopian, because although it's good and I'm glad to help people, and with 100% success rate, every person I've helped, they've gotten better immediately. When I say I've helped, put them in touch with the doctors that get them help. All jokes aside, that's not good. You should be going to the guy in the white coat in the hospital. But the fact that people know instinctively that when it does happen, that they can't trust anything, that's not good that they're coming to me. Like that's not, as flattering as it is, and as much as I'm happy to help, that should not be the case. You should not have to email a dude whose podcast you found on Rumble. Like, that's, especially in the United States. Maybe in like a third world country, you'd know a guy that knows a guy that can get you some vitamin D. But that's short of being, again, exaggerating, but that's pure evil. You got to go off the main social media platforms and, hey, there's this guy and he interviewed this guy. Yeah. No, they have this stuff, and oh yeah, no, you can get a prescription. No, what is it? Oh, it's a generic. It's cost pennies on the dollar. You get better immediately. Isn't this the thing that's killed 1 million Americans? Yeah, no, but you can get better immediately. But the FDA and the CDC, yeah, no, those are captured institutions. Like, this is genuinely evil.
You were talking a couple of podcasts ago. Who was the guy whom I absolutely love now, who have 1 million times more, but he was talking about socialism and concentration of power. It was like 2 or 3 ago. And one of the things that you both were agreeing on is people too often say, yeah, Russia's socialism was bad. Nazi socialism was bad.
Nick Hudson?
Yeah.
Is that him, Nick Hudson? Okay. Yeah. Sorry. All right.
But I was thinking, as I was listening to him, you were discussing how kids today say, well, real socialism hasn't been tried. These were just aberrations, Pol Pot, Mao, and National Socialism and Hitler. But I was thinking that, how about it's 100% inevitable that they end up killing people, because of the people who rise to the top under socialism. You get to the top by being nasty under socialism. Who you bribe, who you threaten, who you. I don't think anybody gets, for large-scale socialism of the sort of Mao or Stalin, or right now, I think, well, Xi, you don't allow dissenting opinions. You only get there by kind of almost like brute force. And that means that you can't allow dissenting opinions. And that led me to think, we're on our way. Mm-hmm. We're on our way where dissenting opinions aren't allowed.
Well, again, that's kind of why I'm so radical in that, it's freaking out over the suspensions on YouTube about election fraud and COVID. And I said it then. You can go back and find the episodes, like the early 400s, late 300s. that it wasn't necessarily about the elections or COVID, even though, as we're now talking about with early treatment, those are also real reasons to be mad, but rather this is how it starts. And when you say that, people roll their eyes and they're like, all right, hey, sucks to suck, dude. Cope and see if you got kicked off YouTube. You're not living in a concert. No, I know that. The point is kill it now before it's in the crib. Socialism in America is in the crib. And it's a little demonic baby with horns. Smother it now. And I'm going, look at it. It's going to grow up and it's going to be 12 feet tall and have wings and breathe fire. And like, all right, buddy. Why do you want to kill the baby? I'm like, kill the baby. Kill it now. And of course, somebody's going to take that out of context. But you know what I'm saying?
You and Jordan Peterson, because you're familiar with Jordan Peterson, at least a bit.
Yeah.
But for those who aren't, I think he's among the biggest boogeymen of the left. And how did he get his start? How did he become globally famous? How's he sold tens of millions of books? He got his start because he refused to go along in Canada with required pronouns. He didn't want forced speech. And his premise was that's where it all starts. If you don't kill that baby in its crib, you get full-on repression.
Well,
so you and Jordan Peterson, sir.
Well, it starts as first you start on the peripheries. You use highly controversial things that not only do people not really care if you censor them about, they might even subconsciously agree with their censorship, right? That's why you start with wildly controversial figures like Alex Jones questioning Sandy Hook. And people go, yeah, you probably shouldn't allow the guy to be on harassing parents. And I get it. I get it. I'm like, yeah, and then you start with like Milo Yiannopoulos talking
whom I absolutely adored. What's happened to him?
He's banned from everything in, I think, 2018. You go, okay. He was talking about how he was like molested as a child and how it ended up being a positive experience. Okay, I can see, again, I can see my rational mind goes, yeah, I get where you maybe want to get rid of that. But it starts with, well, what's really happened is now it's not that they've made it so that you are okay with banning people who discuss school shootings or being molested as a child. What you're now doing is normalizing some people get banned. Just some people, only the worst. And then very quickly, to the point where they removed the sitting president and half the country cheered. And now I haven't been on YouTube in almost a year. I just finished an interview with another guy who said that, no, there's a new thing you can't talk about on YouTube. And it's something to do with the Ukrainian, like Azov battalion or something. You can't talk about it. And so we're starting to see this creep. And it starts with, so now we're moving into shift the Overton window to where it is okay to ban people. Okay. And then you go election fraud. Okay. And then you go COVID. People are dying. Okay. You're moving it farther and farther in. And now what you're doing is there are people who outright get banned. And then there are people who stay on YouTube and they just voluntarily don't talk about those things. So you are now changing people, which is the ultimate censorship, is to get them to self-censor. And what is self-censoring? Self-censoring is you are actively rewiring your brain to go, we don't talk about that. We do talk about, when I leave my apartment, I make sure I have pants on. My brain is wired that way because bad things will happen if I don't. But now you go, we just won't talk about that. We won't talk about that. And you're slowly normalizing where at first it was pearl clutching. They banned Alex Jones, a violation of free speech. 5 short years later, it's, we can't talk about that. You can't talk about that. I've done podcasts I've been on podcasts that are on YouTube, and they'll tell me beforehand, they'll be like, and, just quick rules, we don't cuss a lot. I'm like, yeah, sure. And they're like, and no ban topics. And I'm like, what are you talking? And sure, I'll go along with it. It's your show, but I don't have any respect for you. Grow some balls. But we're moving in closer and closer to where you are now rewiring your brain to, we don't talk about that. Well, now you have started to bifurcate your brain. You've compartmentalized it into bad, acceptable. That alone is insane. It's not what is bad and what is acceptable. It's you have now bifurcated what you can talk about and how you think. And when you start thinking differently and you are the neuroplasticity of your mind, you are wiring yourself differently, you start acting differently. And you are now acting in this 3-dimensional, 4-dimensional reality. You are now interacting with reality differently. You are now reflexively, maybe you don't bring it up on YouTube. Maybe you also don't bring it up at a bar because you don't know what other people are thinking. And you start acting differently. And as you start acting differently, it is now coming into the physical world, which started as just words, just the expansion and collapsing of waves through the particles in the air has now moved into the physical reality, what you are willing to talk. And then it moves to, well, I don't want to show up at that trucker protest. Well, I don't want to do this. Well, I don't want to do that. And all the while, and then once we're years into accepting that people get banned on YouTube, how long is it until we accept that bank accounts get frozen, which we saw earlier this year in Toronto, or where the hell it was? And then how long? Because what is it now moving from the audio into the reality? How long until there will be the first person arrested? It'll be the Alex Jones, and it'll be a big shocker.
Well, how about it's J6?
January 6th. But we're seeing all these things to now where we're moving from YouTube labels to actual armed enforcers of the state. And then by the time, as Yuri Bezmenov said, by the time you realize it will be when the boot hits you in your fat American butt and the gates of the gulag close behind you, everyone dies. And then some dipshit 20 years later will go, well, that wasn't real socialism. That was American socialism. And the system repeats again and again. But there's not a guarantee that there will be another America to rise, and an America this powerful. That is why I'm so admittedly dramatic and hyperbolic about it. It creeps in until all of a sudden, because now try fighting censorship. Yeah, dude, people censor. It's a private company. Get over it. 5 years ago, everyone said, no, that's bad. It's not that far off until we go, hey, if you didn't want the SWAT team breaking down your door, you shouldn't have posted that video about COVID. And then by the time you realize it, it's like that saying goes, you vote yourself into socialism, you shoot yourself out. That's how it starts. So, and now let's say none of it comes to pass. What is the price I pay? People look back and go, hey, remember when you thought that socialism was coming to the United States? And you know what I go? I go, yeah, egg on my face. I was a jacket. Just like I look back at pictures of me in high school and I go, God, that guy was an asshole. I'll look back at me and go, yeah, that's self-righteous. He thought he knew what was going on. What is the price if I don't do anything? 100 million dead. So that's why
I'm going to go worse than that. I'm thinking the fall of Rome. I was just reading. There's or listening to a YouTuber. I don't know if you've come across Peter Zion, but he was pointing out that when Rome fell, that it took 60 generations for the world to get back to a similar, or at least for Europe to get back to a similar economic level. 60 generations, 1,500 years. I mean, do we want, what we're fighting for right now is, I think, the next 60 generations.
Best case scenario. Who's to say that another America rises? I mean, like all hard work and all success, every famous artist or athlete will tell you, like, the worst part about it all is that there was an aspect of luck involved. And it's kind of like blackbilling, because you go, man, even though I was the hardest worker in the room, it might not have happened if I hadn't sat next to that guy on the plane. And, he turns out he's a record label owner. There was also a lot of luck to the United States. Like Dr. Federer has been on here talking about it. And he's come on a couple times talking about socialism. He has a book on socialism. And he goes, it's not a guarantee that like another America rises. Like it was kind of a fluke. It was kind of a fluke that a bunch of guys with wooden teeth and powdered wig and muskets fought off the British. And at that same time, France just so happened, and maybe I'm butchering my history, hated Britain. So they came and helped us. And it also just so happened to be on a landmass that had 2 oceans on either side and an Arctic tundra above, in a time period where there weren't planes to easily traverse it. So you couldn't necessarily just go and conquer. And we had this giant place where you could escape inland, and that had a ton of natural resources. And then the guys that did win that war in that fluke, for the first time ever, decided, hey, let's have self-rule where we all vote for this stuff. That was all the planets aligning. So the idea of 60 generations, best case.
Yeah,
Best
I guess
case.
looking and by the way, I think if we were missing two of the founding fathers, I don't think would get as far as we did. I think we needed them all.
It's not just that, like, oh, it's a good thing. It's taking all of the cards in a deck and throwing them into the air, and then they landed in order. And people going, well, I don't want to knock over the poker table because, it's going to take another couple hours before that will never happen again. Like, so when you look at it in that frame, there's two ways to go about it, or there's really one way. You look at the two outcomes. I'd rather exaggerate, get banned from YouTube, and scream until my face turns red. And if it doesn't happen, yeah, I'll be embarrassed and I'll be like, yeah, I was wrong. I'd rather that be the cost than go, it was a fall room. Maybe I should have spoke up. That's kind of my logic.
I mean, the way it appears to me right now, as I look around the world and as I'm totally addicted to news. I talk with friends. Is it like Pearl Harbor, or is it more like Normandy Beach, except that we don't know that it's going to turn out right?
Yeah.
Where are you on that scale? Normandy Beach?
Yeah, I think we're there. I think it's a huge gamble and a huge sacrifice, but it still might work. That's kind of where I am. Is like, we're far past the preventative stage. Like, it's creeped in already with censorship. But we're not so far along that the only way out is an AK and a face mask. I still think that there's still a big quote unquote cost, but right now the cost is it's limited to being a social outcast, being ostracized, being made fun of, having to go on the alternative platforms, getting shadow banned. So it can still be done.
But not only that, there's got to be some really good feeling knowing that you're on the side of the angels and that a lot of people are listening to you who agree with you, and that some of the best guests on the whole internet come and talk with you. I mean, there's some rewards for this.
Oh, you sleep like a baby.
Yeah.
You're good. I mean, your soul is clean. You know where you I'm wrong on a lot of things, but I have no hesitation and not a moment even rethinking anything. Yeah, when I know that, hey, censorship is objectively, it is never once have the good guys censored. Never once. It's not that it wasn't real socialism and everyone died. It has never started with, it was just a little bit of censorship. It's never happened. So yeah, you sleep like a baby. It's good.
By the way, I want to interrupt and pull
Sure.
rank on you because
Sure.
I'm 50 years older than you. I decided maybe sometime around your age that the most important thing to me in my life was self-respect. If you don't have that, you ain't got nothing. And so if it takes some costs to keep your self-respect, do it.
Well, yeah, that was like another reason I got banned from YouTube, was not only the whole socialism fall of Rome thing, but I was also just like, if I started like curtailing what I said, I mean, I kind of wanted to beat myself up, because for like a couple episodes after my first like 1 week suspension, I would kind of bite my tongue, or I'd feel the conversation going one way and I'd start to push it another. And I remember for like a couple days, I couldn't escape it. Like an inner voice was just like, what are you doing? Like, you bitch. And I just try to put it out of my, well, I got to stay on YouTube. I got to grow the podcast. But I just couldn't. It was just always just right there. Just like, what you are. You can't even say the wrong words on YouTube. Like, what are you? And yeah, that was probably the biggest driver. I was like, I can't really even like look in the mirror. Like it's just a personal thing. Like yeah, it still feels icky.
But really, what is more important than self-respect? Because that's your identity. That's who you are. That's what makes you tick. And if you give that up, you're nothing.
I mean, it kind of like, it almost kind of brings weight to the idea of like selling your soul to the devil. Like, I don't think, all the blues singers, I sold my soul to become I don't actually think that they had a bunch of candles and a pentagram and gave their ethereal being to Moloch or something. Maybe they did. I don't know. I don't think it's that. I think it's more the idea of like remove self-respect, become a hollow vessel. And when you do that, it's like how psychopaths rise to the top of the system because they don't care. Everything's a pawn. There's no, a psychopath would go stay on YouTube because it's still profitable to stay on YouTube. And when the time comes to go to Rumble, you would go to Rumble because it would be a good PR thing. There would be no, well, what do I think is right? And that's why psychopaths rise. And that's a whole nother podcast for another time is nature selecting for psychopaths. But if you can like hollow out.
I'm not going to say nature. I'm not going to say or not say that nature selects for psychopaths, but I'm pretty sure socialism selects for psychopaths.
Well, I think human nature in general does. I think capitalism does. I
don't think in the same degree because, like Stalin, to stay in power, he had to create
sure
that eliminates his competition. I don't think in the democratic system that a person with that kind of personality gets rewarded.
Yeah,
at least not on that scale or with that much power.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, a pure psychopath doesn't rise to the top of business because you want to make the most money, and making the most money, even if you're a psychopath, might mean making people happy by giving them a cheap product. So yeah, that's the versus like a backwater dictatorship where the only thing that matters is the raw pursuit of power. Yeah, whatever. North Korea is not trying to like put affordable microwaves in apartments. It is tanks. It is bullets. It is rounding up family members and shooting them in the back of the head. It's a raw pursuit of power. In which case, it selects for being a psychopath. But the point is, selling your soul. Yeah, I mean, if you hollowed yourself out and just became a vessel, yeah, I mean, if I really wanted to climb as fast as I could, I would shave my head. I'd have like a mohawk. I'd dye it blue. I'd have like 3 nose rings. I'd start transitioning. I'd start taking hormones. I'd take down this flag for sure. I'd put the BLM LGBTQ with a picture of Shay. I would rescind all past episodes I've done. I would burn all bridges, and I would only I would ambush journalism, Dr. McCullough and Dr. Malone. I'd bring them on here and attack them. Do the same to you. You're a white woman. I would attack you guys for medical.
No, but I identify as black.
No, I will out oppress you. I'm black and I'm in a wheelchair, and I would rise out and I would use my ability to reach people and only interview people who were just screaming harpies about like the Second Amendment. That's all I'd do.
And you would rise.
I would, if I took my work ethic with that, I'd be at the top. But I would also probably, the only way I'd be able to sleep at night is like a handful of Xanax and a bottle of liquor, which would result in my death. So like it's a trade-off. So no, I don't think there is anything more important than self-respect, because what was the point?
Because what is the
Not only that, is you're replaceable. They can remove me and get the next guy willing to dye his hair blue and put a BLM flag behind him and start screaming about the white male patriarchy. So you have no staying power either. Yeah, so what's the point?
The other thing is, everybody that I've known who grew up under socialism says that you never have a happy day because you're always worried that somebody's going to turn you in, or your kids are going to say the wrong thing at school, or it's you against the state. You don't have your church as a buffer. It's just you helpless against the state.
Yeah.
And it feels to me as if not enough people realize how absolutely evil a regime is that can kill millions of its citizens.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you want to make something look bad, you compare it to the Nazis, right? Who were evil. Killed what, 6 million Jews, 6 million more Sinti, Roma, homosexuals, gypsies, 12 million in the death camps, which is excluding war.
But they were pikers.
But so 12 million, right? I don't know what that means. Pikers?
Oh, just not very good at it. Amateurs.
No, they weren't. Yeah, 12 million.
Nothing. Okay, a step forward towards ultimate evil, but they've been topped.
Well, that's what I mean. Is so we're always comparing things to Hitler. Sure, demonic, and as they were and as they should be, again in every simulation, all hung by the neck till they're dead. But 12 million, that's nothing compared to Mao. And it's not that Mao is a one-off. What about Stalin? What about Pol Pot? It goes on and on and on. In one century, between 1900 and 2000, over 100 million people died under communist socialist regimes. That just doesn't. Tom Brady has 6 or 7 Super Bowl rings. There are other quarterbacks that have 2 and 3. Most quarterbacks have none. It is definitely admirable to have 3 Super Bowl rings. But no one in their right mind would talk about a 3 Super Bowl winner as the epitome of what football should be. Now you'd go, hey, why are you talking about him? Tom Brady has double that. If you're gonna talk about skyscrapers, the Empire State Building is 1,250 feet tall. That's impressive. The Burj Khalifa is 2,800 feet tall. There's no point in comparing. If you're going to use one as an example for whatever it is you're talking about, football aptitude or the height of a building, you use the bigger one. No one ever brings up. So if we're talking about evil, no one talks.
I get where you're going, because by that standard,
why do we say Hitler, not Stalin or Mao?
And let's go with Mao. I've just been reading a book on the famine that Mao induced.
Yeah, the Great Leap.
40 million people killed, but you just hear the word killed and it kind of glides by and you don't really get it. But this book talks about how it's called Mao's famine. And he was mad that people weren't collectivizing fast enough. And so he did the same thing that Stalin did. He sold their grain, leaving them to starve, with the result that there were villages that would go on raiding parties against other villages to cannibalize their children.
Yeah.
Desperate people do extraordinarily desperate things.
Yeah.
I mean, cannibalism was alive and well in Mao's.
Yeah.
And by the way, similar things happened in, I think I'm pronouncing it right, the Ukraine, the Holodomor.
Holodomor, yeah.
Holodomor.
Yeah.
Yeah, democracy does some bad things here and there, but it's nothing like that.
But so we look back, and it's not even like we're talking about ancient man, where it was like, in ancient Egypt, you would, slit a slave's throat to sacrifice him to Osiris. And it's evil, but there's also this whole thing of like the wheel was a relatively new invention. And it just, you're so disconnected, where it's not even, when you look at like a picture from like the late 1800s versus like the 1930s, and one of them's black and white and one of them's color, the color one just feels light years closer, even though they're only separated by 20, 30 years. And then you look back and then there's oil paintings of like Renaissance, but you look back to Egypt and it's just like strange hieroglyphics carved in stone, like Sumerian cuneiform. You look back at all that and you kind of, well, what were you gonna? Of course, you were gonna sacrifice a slave to Osiris. You need the crops to grow. Like, you kind of accept it. This all happened when like internal combustion cars are a thing. Like, biplanes existed, radio, It
how about
just happened.
Mao's famine? It went from, I think, 58 to 62. 40 million dead. I mean, that's in my lifetime and pretty close to your lifetime.
In that time frame, you could also take a pressurized airliner across the ocean in a first class ticket. That's how right there it was. It's right there. But we have this idea that it'll never happen again because that was ancient Egypt. Yeah, you're right. We're probably not going to start sacrificing people to Osiris to make the crops grow. I would imagine that's a safe bet. And not only is it right there, it's happening now. Like today, Monday, June 27th, 2022, at 4:44 p.m. Eastern time. It's happening now in China and North Korea. Right now. But we still have this, who knows, maybe socialism is the apex predator of institutions, because despite being so evil, it still manages to glide right under the radar. Maybe it's the ultimate shark. It is the most alpha evolved machine. It can kill everyone. It's still right here today. And we go, no, the biggest problem is misinformation on YouTube. Who knows? Maybe
actually, here's what I can't put together. In this country, somebody's all upset about being misgendered. And you know, when there are people like the Uyghurs, millions of people having their organs harvested to maintain the industry of
medical
organ
tourism.
harvesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's with Americans that we can, that in the public square people are paying attention to trans bathrooms or being misgendered, when
maybe it's a self-feedback loop of, we created a system so good that we made wealth so accessible that we had nothing else to do but create problems like misgendered. Who knows? Maybe socialism keeps it real. Hey, whether it's 1,000 years ago or today, you're going to fight for that potato. I don't know. Maybe this is the natural. Maybe if you run this simulation a million times, maybe this is always the outcome. You create a system so good that it spoils itself.
Actually, I've seen my particular thing that I write about and speak about most often is family dynamics, particularly business families. And the number of families that do very, very well economically and then tear themselves apart over petty stuff. It's legendary. 70% of business families won't make it to the next generation. And it's because they're quarreling. And what are they quarreling over? Well, it almost makes me think of the British royal family. Harry and Meghan are quarreling over, are quarreling with his father over, my allowance should be bigger. What? You're going to trash your whole family publicly over the size of your allowance?
I saw a great conspiracy. It goes, Harry and Meghan moved to the United States so they can have a child born in the United States and be an American citizen. That child will be groomed to grow up to be a president, and he will then dismantle the United States. Britain will have the last laugh from 1776.
Okay, I like it. By the way, in the little bit of time that we've had left, or that we have left, I would like to talk about my latest book, which comes out on the 3rd of July.
Yes, ma'am. Please take it away.
All right, it's on Mark Victor Hansen. And you may or may not be familiar with that name, but I guarantee that you're familiar with the books that he wrote. He is the co-author of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. And what I got to do is I got to interview at least 65 different people on what it took to be the success that he became. Because there was a large period of his life where just from book sales alone, he was making $6 million a year. Even to this day, if you choose to book him for 3 talks, he'll give you a package for $250,000. I mean, can you even imagine success in that scale? Okay, so how did he do it? Well, I know because I interviewed him and all these other people. And he started out somewhere around age 26, bankrupt, considering suicide, was so negative about everything that people didn't want to be around him. I mean, he would just gobble up all the bad news that you could get. And this is not a promising start for somebody who became an extraordinary success. And so what happens? And what did happen was, there he is, broke. He's crashing in the house owned by 4 friends, and he's sleeping outside his friend's bedroom door on the floor, completely unable to sleep, thinking, do I want to live or not? And then, I think I won't tell you the rest.
Why not?
Yeah, oh no, okay, I'll tell you the rest. Okay, so in complete despair, with just nothing left to call on, he prayed. By the way, and to this day, he meditates every single day. But in this case, he asked God, what am I here for? What's my destiny? What do you want me to do with my life? I'm bankrupt. I lost all my friends. I don't have a place to stay. And he felt that this answer came to him, and the answer was in the form of a question. What do you really, really, really want to do? This is the voice somewhat like God speaking to him. And so he looked for an answer, and he came up with, what I really want to do is, I'd like to be a speaker. I'd like to be a writer. I want to talk with people about things that really matter so that I can help make their lives better. Well, for the first time in months, he was able to sleep. The next morning, he's decided his life's plan is clear. He wants to be a speaker. And he found somebody who would be a mentor. And the first 3 months, he was giving 4 speeches a day. He'd go to the different rotaries. He'd just practice until he got really good at it. And with Chicken Soup for the Soul, which has sold 500 million books,
Jeez.
it was turned down 144 times. Publisher after publisher, they said, nobody wants a series of upbeat, mushy stories. But his attitude was, no, the world needs this. These are redemptive stories. These are stories that will encourage people and give them the inspiration to keep on and not give up. Well, the 145th publisher, and by the way, this is after 14 months of trying to get a publisher, and his agent fired him, said, you'll never get anywhere with this book. And that was after like 30 turndowns. Anyway, the 145th did agree to publish it. And Mark told him, we're going to sell 1.5 million books. And the publisher said, no, you're going to sell 20,000. And when it first came out, if it's a bestseller, you'd really like to have 5,000 books sold that first week. When all the burst of publicity and everything is happening, it sold 80. So how did it go from 80 to selling 15 million a year? And the answer is absolutely unremitting effort. He'd give like 5 radio broadcasts a day, and then on top of that, he'd give speeches, and just bit by bit, gnawing away at this, he went from a good week being 80 sales to finally 15 million a year. But it's a story of just relentless effort and complete unwillingness to say no. And I asked him, what did you say when number 134, 135, and 136 told you no? And he said, every time I heard a no, in my mind, I was spelling out N-E-X-T, next. He just absolutely wouldn't give in. But the world would be such a different place if he had given in at the 144th turn down.
So when is my podcast going to break and actually get some notoriety?
Mark didn't hit his stride until he was in his 50s, and he started at age 26. So there.
Didn't want to hear that.
On the other hand, he wasn't doing all that badly. I mean, he was. And well, here's an interesting thing. In his late 40s and his 50s, he hit the peak of the two things that he was aiming for. He was the world's bestseller and author of nonfiction. And he was also acknowledged pretty much by everybody as the top speaker in the inspirational field. So the two things that he had been trying for all his life, he finally reached them. But he still wasn't where he wanted to be, because he had had a 27-year marriage that ended horribly. And Freud says that you want to be happy and complete, you need both work and love. And the love had totally eluded him. And here's where meditation comes in. He figured that his life was empty. And so he began meditating on what he really wanted in a relationship. And he wrote down like more than 100 things that he wanted in the woman of his dreams. And he just visualized her. And every day that went by, his attitude was, well, I'm one day closer to meeting her. And then one day he did, and that was 8 years ago. And he's been I think it was 8 years ago, he's been blissfully happy ever since. So now he's got it all. But with a lot of, bankruptcy, thoughts of suicide, lawsuits, friendships that turned sour. I mean, his life is extraordinarily successful after getting past a whole lot of hurdles.
So although I have all of my own grandiose plans, I should pull back my question, not to when is it, because I want this to be the biggest podcast ever. I would like to find love. I'd like to find a ton of money. I'd like to kind of revolutionize mental health. I have a million big things I want to do. I guess I should. I have no doubt that will take decades. When will the podcast? Because I need. Let's see. I think like bare minimum, I could probably live on, like, if I really stretched, probably like $30,000 a year. Right now, when I say the podcast makes it, when will it? Because to date, let's see on Rumble how much I have made to date. I mean, I've been on Rumble for 2 years, but I really only started utilizing it last September when I got banned from YouTube. So from September till June 27th, 2022. In total, I've made $428. All right, it's $428 more than nothing. On Spotify, I've been on Spotify since April 2020. It is June 2022. I've made $517. Combined, I've made $945.59.
How about Patreon?
Patreon.
Patreon.
The reason I don't use that is because I think to get my podcast bigger, it's like a Tim Dillon. I think Tim Dillon's the funniest man alive. He makes $250,000 a month on Patreon. He puts out one episode a week on YouTube and one on Patreon. I think he's the funniest man alive. That he can pull that. No one else can. I look at Joe Rogan. So I look at Tim Dillon, and part of me goes, if he just put it all out for free, he'd probably have a bigger following. He's like Tom Brady. He can pull. He has the chips. He has leverage. I then look at the Joe Rogan approach. He's never charged anything for any of his episodes. It's always been accessible to anybody, whether you're in Billionaires Row in Manhattan or whether you're in rural India. If you have an internet connection, you can find it for free. Download the whole library, almost 2,000 episodes, 3 hours each. And Tim Dillon, although he's made like $2 or $3 million off Patreon. Joe Rogan also penned a check for $100 million, and is much bigger.
Let's go with Joe Rogan.
So my logic is, I could go for like silver, or I could go for gold.
Go for gold.
And my podcast is still. If Joe Rogan right now decided every third episode was on Patreon, he'd pull a lot of people to Patreon. I'm not even on YouTube. So part of me is like, it takes some delusion to start demanding money for my episodes. So right now I'm very much in a just throw all the seeds into all the dirt and hopefully it lands somewhere. But in 2 years on 2 platforms, Spotify and Rumble, I have not yet made a month's worth of rent. So when I say the podcast makes it, I'm not even talking about I'm a billionaire and I'm building mental health research facilities and I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I mean, I'm paying for rent. And then if I get lucky, I'll make enough for utilities. And then after that, maybe enough for maybe if I made 2,000, that's what I need. $2,000 a month. That's my question to you, Mitzi, with your crystal ball. Is when is that gonna? I'm okay with waiting 30 years to be Mark Victor Hansen. That's cool. I get it. You got to do the grind. Respect. You got to put in the dues. I'm looking at like the bottom of what Maslow. I'm looking at the bottom of the pyramid. Shelter.
Yeah.
The door locks.
You still have to eat.
Yes, and I'm fine. I'm fine with that. That's what I mean. When will the podcast succeed? I'm cool with grinding for 3, 4, 5 decades. I get it.
I don't think it's that, because I also think that, I'm a fan of podcasts. I've even, there's something called Podfest, and I've even lectured on Podfest of what makes a good podcast. I don't have one, so I'm allowed to do that. I think you're past Joe Rogan. I think you have a broader data bank to draw on than he does. I think you're better at analogies. I think your future is unlimited. And who knows when the next big break will happen.
It's kind of like what's like the toy, dun 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 dun. You're cranking it and then it pops out.
Yeah.
That's what I try to tell myself, is not that it's bound for failure and that's why it hasn't worked yet. I allow myself a little bit of delusion, and I go, to go back to Tim Dillon before he was rich. There's an episode of him telling someone else how to do comedy. He goes, you're going to have to tell yourself that you are good and you are worth money, even though it's delusion. And it is. And you'll need that drug to get through it. So if part of me goes, it's the reason why I still can't, pay rent with it isn't because it sucks. I allow myself just a little bit of fantasy. And I go, dun, 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 dun. Not enough that I go, I don't have to do any episodes because it's just going to work. You still have to put in the just blind work ethic, just wear yourself down to the bone.
Well, then Chicken Soup for the Soul Story.
I know.
I mean, everybody told. In your case, you're different from Mark Victor Hansen, because in the case of Mark Victor Hansen and Chicken Soup for the Soul, all the publishers were telling him, it's no good, nobody will like it, the title is dumb. You at least have people telling you that you're good.
I do, but the landlord doesn't take video clips of me having friends tell me, I like your podcast. As proud as I think they would be of me, because my landlord likes me, I think she still uses US dollars. So that's my sort of like red pill. Whereas much as I try to stay as optimistic as I can, there's also like I live in a physical reality. The lights do turn on and off. The microphone can go off. It can go on. I am a carbon-based life form that needs protein, fat, carbohydrates, and an assortment of vitamins and minerals and cofactors. I have to sleep. The door has to lock. I hate it. Trust me, I hate it. I wish I could live.
Okay, but again, Mark Victor Hansen getting turned down so many times. And then once when it worked, oh my God.
I mean, it will just be the best ride. It'll be the best experience ever.
And by the way, he was getting $6 million a year back in, we're talking the early 1990s, which is probably like $12 million a year today.
How old was he in the 1990s? How old is he now?
I think he's 74.
So told about 22 years. And 32 years. 74, so he'd be, what, 42?
Yeah.
27 to 42 is, it's still 15 years. I'm 31.
Yeah, but how about you're smarter and more articulate and I think more driven?
I also don't need 12 million a year. I need 24,000. I don't know. With Biden's inflation, I probably need 12 million. I think of the Charles Bukowski, that author. He's dead.
What has he written, and why is the name familiar?
I think he was a poet. I haven't actually read any of his stuff. I just know
if he's a poet, I haven't read him.
Yeah. I don't know when he died. I don't know. Maybe in like the 90s. Maybe he died last year. I don't know. But he was this just womanizing, misogynistic, alcoholic deadbeat that worked at a post office. And he would just drink himself blind drunk every night. It was just a grumpy, just disgusting, just pig, wake up, face in the refrigerator or something. And but he still wrote poetry every night. And a lot of it was terrible. And I don't think until he was in his 50s that someone finally like picked it up, and they're like, hey, like I can't guarantee you anything. You might not get any money. If you quit your post office job, you might starve. And he looked around, he basically looked at his job in the middle of nowhere, some podunk town, drinking whiskey every night. And he's like, starving might not be that bad. And then I think he became like a multi-millionaire and enjoyed it for like a decade or so until he died.
Wow.
But he has a quote about like, I think it's called like roll the dice or something. And it's basically like, if you're going to go for it, go all the way. You will experience isolation, heartbreak. Your friends and family will abandon you. You'll sleep on a bench if you're lucky. You might end up in prison. You'll go hungry. But when it works, and it will work, it'll be better than anything you can imagine. And then the quote it's actually the quote I have. It's, if you go look on Spotify, it'll say like in your about me, I just have one sentence, and it's, you will ride life into perfect laughter. It's from that poem. He says two things. He goes, when it works, you will be alone with the gods, and the nights will rage with fire. Because he wasn't married. He said he would sit up at night and just think to himself, alone in his house, I can't believe this worked. I'm a millionaire. And you will ride life into perfect laughter. And there's another line from it. I'm gonna have to read it to you, and then I know we got to wrap this up. But then it's the only good fight. Let me read it to you real quick because I'm butchering it now, and now I'm getting myself all amped up.
Actually, I've certainly read it on. I mean, because I go to Spotify and then I go to Tommy's page, and then I read that, and then I look for whoever's most recent.
Roll the Dice by Charles Bukowski. If you're going to try, go all the way. Otherwise, don't even start. If you're going to try, go all the way. This could mean losing girlfriends, wives, relatives, jobs, and maybe your mind. Go all the way. It could mean not eating for 3 or 4 days. It could mean freezing on a park bench. It could mean jail. It could mean derision, mockery, isolation. Isolation is a gift, but all the others are a test of your endurance, of how much you really want to do it. And you'll do it despite rejection and the worst odds. And it'll be better than anything else you can imagine. If you're going to try, go all the way. There is no other feeling like that. You will be alone with the gods, and the nights will flame with fire. Do it, do it, do it, do it. All the way, all the way. You will ride life straight into perfect laughter. It's the only good fight there is. Fucking love that. That's so much. It gets me jacked up.
No, it's perfect. It's just perfect.
It's the only good fight there is. So yeah, self-respect. What's the price? It's the only good
Pay
fight
anything for it.
You could get it if you dyed your hair blue and put up a communist flag.
No,
that's not. Yeah, you won't be alone with the gods. You won't ride straight into perfect laughter. You'll probably shoot yourself. Yeah, no, I want that poem gets me so amped up. I want to go like hit a punching bag now. I'm jacked up.
Well, I've loved this visit.
Thank you, Dr. Perdue, for my therapy sessions, as you often provide me. So thank you for that.
Okay, well, until next time.
Yes, ma'am, Miss Mitzi Perdue. I'll put all the links to all of your good stuff in the description, as always. And as always, Mitzi, I love you so much. Thank you for coming.
And I absolutely adore you. And, when you're rich and famous, please remember your friends.
I'll remember you. I will remember everybody. Unless, of course, I move to North Korea and become a dictator and climb to the top. That's also.
Oh, well, that has its appeal too.
You guys can join me. My loyal crew.
Tommy, either way, I'm in. Okay.
All right, Mitzi, I love you. Stay safe, everybody. God bless. Thank you so much, Mitzi. This actually really helped me. Thank you so much.